What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. Today on the live stream, we have the man himself, James Victore. You definitely want to stick around for this live stream, the deep cut, if you will. I just want to give a little word of warning. There's going to be some strong language and even stronger ideas. So if you're a little sensitive or you have little ones around, you may or may not want to have them around. I think it'll be okay. But James is known to drop a F-bomb here or there. And if you don't know who James is, be prepared. Here we go. James is an author, an artist, a designer, and a professional hellraiser. His own description there. He's taught for many, many years. He's also a writer. He's written 2 books, a third one on the way. Motivational speaker, a creative coach, and his work is included in permanent collections of museums worldwide. Now, I've known James's work longer than I've known who he is. That's how pervasive his work is, how powerful it is. I've seen his images everywhere. And now that I'm going through his book, I'm like, wow, James, You've been a busy person. You've been a busy human being. I have the first book. Here it is, which I will share with you. It's in my hands, and there's a little story behind that book as well. And his second book, Perfection. I have to be careful how I say that. A little careful there. Okay. And in his book, there's this poster, use a condom. And in the book, he talks about make work good enough that people want to steal it. That's a pretty cool mantra, way of looking at things. He wants to make work that matters. James Victore, welcome to the show.
Yay!
Happy to be here.
All right,
happy
James.
to be here, Chris. Like I said, when I got in touch with you, I've been a fan of yours for a while. I've known about you for a bunch of years, and I really try to do a good job paying attention to what the universe is telling me. And your name just was like coming up. I'm like, I think I got to get in touch with Chris. So I dropped you a line, and here we are on our first date.
It is our first date, and so we're gonna take it slow and easy on the first date. And I have to say,
Baby, be gentle.
So you guys already know how this show is gonna go. We're setting the tone early right here. I was tickled when you reached out to me. I'm like, you were on my hit list of people I need to talk to get this thing together. And definitely, we were talking about last year. Wouldn't it be great to have James on the show? Like, who knows him? How do we do this? He's not gonna want to talk to us. And then when you sent that letter, I'm like, let's make it happen, just like that.
Mr. Big Shot won't talk to you.
Now, look, I'm going to hold up his book just to show you. Okay, I have one of his books. This is his first book, right? This was done how many years ago?
That's like 10 years ago now.
10 years ago. Okay. It's beautiful,
That's the old
you guys.
Me.
The old you?
That's the old me.
It's very unconventional in that a lot of the text is written on the side here. Okay, so you kind of have to turn it. It's forcing you to kind of look at things differently, and that's the tone of, I think, your life philosophy. Is like you have an opinion, and you're not shy to share it. And there's some really thought-provoking work, very conceptual, very raw artwork in here. And so I just wanted to open up real quick. Your personal style, like how did you find this style, and what is it all about?
As far as personal style, I think I'm just much more of an artist than I am a designer.
Mm-hmm.
The work that tickles me is like Robert Motherwell and Franz Klein particularly. Work that is expressive and has some humanity to it. And when I was 19, I went to New York to go to the School of Visual Arts, and everybody was, modernism was a thing. Paul Rand was still alive and working, and Massimo was working and stuff. And that stuff just it was like pasta with no sauce for me. Just didn't do it. So I just kind of had to kind of look around and find the people who I thought were doing interesting stuff. And they happened to be, 80-year-old Polish guys.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of your when you're working, you're using a brush and like raw materials. You said, I can kick your ass. You can use the computer. Just give me black paper and a pair of scissors. What's that about?
Yeah, that's pretty cocky, huh?
No, I love that. I've said similar things, so I like that.
You know what it's about? It's about. I had a show in Switzerland a bunch of years ago, and it was a huge compliment because I thought there were a number of people. First of all, it was the home of modernism, and it was also people who I just really respected. And I respect the modernists. I respect the simplicity and the big white page. And but I was there, and I had an exhibition, and one of those old geniuses took me aside. He said, James, the interesting thing about your work is it's not about what it looks like; it's about what it says.
Mm.
And to me, that's much more important. So, yes, to give me a pair of scissors, and I don't need the perfectionism of a computer. I mean, I need them. I need the computers because I need to get it out the door. I needed to get it to the printer. I needed to get PDFs and all that. But I got involved in this business because I like working with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that tactile touch. Like we have in the we're in shutdown quarantine here, but in the other room is the living room. And there's this beautiful dining room table that I made. I like
Wow.
that. I like to.
You made
I
the
like
table.
to make things.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
It's sweet. It's beautiful.
There's a quality to, okay, so let's talk about this. A lot of designers are really concerned about the way things look. And then I read what you write, and it's the power of the message. Where does that come from? What part of your background, your history, your interests, your hobbies, your passion, do these words come from? Because I think you're a rare breed among designers that actually like to write and then think about the way things look.
It's funny. It's funny, Chris, because when I remember when I was a kid, I remember, when I was a kid, how I was visually attuned. I remember when I first started to see perspective. I remember that my first visual memory was of a pile of melted crayons on a sidewalk. And like, if you can just imagine that melange, that lava melange, right? But I think I always wanted to be a writer. And I always wanted to be more than a writer. I wanted to be Tom Wolfe. I wanted to be a cultural critic, a journalist. And what I tried to do, especially in my early work, in the poster work, was to have that ability to comment on social, cultural, and political issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my calling early on. And I've kind of gotten back to my calling now as a writer. And even if you follow on my Instagram, there's so many pieces there that are just written, they're just text. And I really don't think I need to decorate them or augment them with visuals, because it happens in the reader's mind so much better than I can create.
Mm-hmm. So when did you first start using hand letter typography in part of your work?
At the very, very beginning, because I went to New York when I was 19 just to go to school. I was asked to leave school maybe 2 years later, and I had to start working immediately. And I had nothing. So I just had to, it was art povera. I started using my handwriting because that was what was available at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a fan of Paul Rand, and a fan of poster design, and I wanted it to be expressive.
Mm-hmm. Why were you asked to leave school? Who asked you to leave school?
I was a shitty student.
Come on.
I was 20 years old. I had to have a full-time job because I had to pay my way.
Yes.
And the full-time job, whatever it paid my rent and gave me enough money that I could drink beer and chase skirt. And that's all I wanted to do. So I didn't, it was like, I didn't really want to go to school. It was a bad time for me to be in school. And I think 1920 is a terrible time for anybody to be in school. You know, you don't know your ass in a hole in the ground. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, probably 10 years later, in the catalog at SVA, School of Visual Arts in New York, in the catalog, my class was listed as, was like GD 1013. Hold on.
Okay.
Knowing your butt from a hole in the ground.
That's what it was listed as?
Knowing your butt from a hole in the ground. Look up. Wyatt. I'm sorry, we're in shutdown and my son is waking up.
Is he okay?
Yeah, so knowing your butt from a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay. So if you need to take a break, let us know. It's okay. We'll figure out a way to entertain our audience.
Okay, wait. Let me go check him out.
Okay. Hey guys, when James comes back, we're going to take a look at his 10 rules, and they're kind of old and doesn't even fully remember what he said, but I think it'd be kind of fun for you to see his work expressed through his words and these ideas. Welcome everybody that's joining on the YouTube live stream. I'll be monitoring your comments in a little bit. I'm going to fire up my YouTube here so I can read your comments. Yeah. The whole team is moving about me furiously like we have a baby crying too or something.
We hear a buzzing over here.
You do?
Yeah.
Does our audience hear it?
Yeah.
You guys hear a buzzing? Oh, no. Okay. The team is scrambling. We're going to figure this out. We're going to try to resolve our buzzing while James is also dealing with his buzzing in the background. Everything's a buzz.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
It's good to be back.
It is. I miss the team.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That does sound like a baby.
Yeah, he has 2 kids. Now I hear the buzzing even worse.
Yeah, that's worse, Jonah.
There. Stop.
But
Nope.
that's...
You know what it is? When your power line crosses the audio line, I think that's where we have problems. So just look for the crossover.
Okay.
So James, apparently we have a audio buzzing there. No, it's even worse now, Jonah. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties, guys. Oh my goodness. Is the kid all right?
Oh yeah, he's fine. He's fine. It's just like, my wife and I were both kind of busy and doing things. And,
Jonah, we're good.
It's just nap time. So it's like, Are you okay?
Yeah, I think so. How about you prop it up on something, Jonah? You want the stand? It's craziness here too. Here,
It's chaos.
yeah. Apparently, I adjusted the light, and yeah, we're good. Ricky, we good?
Yeah, it sounds better.
Okay.
Yeah, it went away.
All right, it went away. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging in there with us. We'll pretend like nothing has happened. This is a live show, guys. Things like this happen all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. All right, we're back, James. So, how many kids do you have?
Life happens. 2.
Two. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
technically 3.
Technically 3.
I've got a 22-year-old back in New York, and then I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 5.
Cut out.
Uh-oh. Now James cut out.
There we go.
We're
He's
back.
He's back.
Okay. This is a wild live stream, you guys. It's wild. Okay, as I was promising our audience, I want to just bring up some of your work and these 10 rules that I found on the internet. Luckily, we confirmed that they are yours indeed, because I think your styles.
They are my words. They are not my work.
Really?
They are my hand. They are my hand. Hey, you.
Does he want to join?
Yeah, she.
Oh, she. Okay. All right. Hi.
It's Nova.
Nova.
That's Chris.
Hi, Nova. Okay. So here we go. Here's the first rule. And I'll read it to you, and then you can respond in any which way you want, whether they reflect your current thinking or not. But first rule is learn the rules and then break them.
Yeah. No, rules are great. Rules keep us from chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even the innocuous rules like don't rock the boat or be nice, if they get in the way, if they impede your creativity, then the hell with them. Then find other ways around them. Even just be nice. I remember my first gallery show. My mom got to see it, and she basically looked at the work and she said, "Don't you do anything nice?" And I'm like, well, if I concern myself with being nice, then no, I'm not going to make any good work. So, and what I particularly meant, obviously there, Chris, was like, the kerning and all the kind of anal retentive stuff that designers love getting their panties in a wad about. But those concerns don't mean anything to real people. Real people want real human contact. They want to see that life happens and it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so rules are great for some people, but when they get in the way of you creating and you making money, then you need to kindly disregard them.
Well, okay, so a lot of people would love to be to have that attitude, but they're concerned about the clients and money and work. And somehow you've had a very long career making work that pushes that and still preserve your voice without too much compromise, as far as I can tell. So how does one walk that line?
Because concern for the clients and concern for the money will shut you down.
Okay.
That will make you do work that you don't want to make. If I made work that made that's people pleasing.
Yes.
And that's not following a voice.
Right.
And most people concern about the clients, and that word concern, by the way, that's a euphemism for the word fear.
Okay.
So if you're fearful, if you're afraid of, oh my God, my client will never take this, so you don't show it. So the thing is, what happens is you never learn the power of your voice. You never learn who you are. You learn to be a mimic and make work that looks like other successful work instead of following your voice. And then what happens, Chris? Then you come looking to me when you're 30 or 40 and you say, hey, I'm really frustrated and I don't know why.
I see.
And I've got the house, I've got a mortgage, I've got the car, I've got, all this stuff, but I'm creatively frustrated and I don't know why.
So have you done something in your professional career where you just pissed off a whole lot of people and you actually hurt your business or your career a little bit, or no?
I don't, yes and no.
Okay.
I've never ever intended in my life to do something to piss somebody off. If you read my work backwards, yes, it would be upsetting. What I have done is what I did do that was wrong was early on when I was doing posters, social, cultural, political. That was my purpose. I'd found my dharma, right? But what happened when what I did wrong was then I realized I needed to make money. And then, then you're 26, 28, right?
Right.
And you realize you have to make money because you got like an apartment and you got a girlfriend or whatever. And I left my purpose in order to do much more commercial work. And that was just to make money. And if I had been really smart, if I had the Chris Doe in me at that time, I would have just figured out how to make money doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm trying to process that.
To try to, how could I do what Banksy did? How
Yes,
could I do
yes.
Shepard Fairey
I
did,
see.
that thing.
So
instead of leaving my purpose behind to go off to find money, how could I stick to my guns and just figure this out?
Right. There's the and part. The and part is really important, right? Because there are a lot of people who are making artwork that they care passionately about, and that's a reflection of their true voice, but they're starving or they're working at Starbucks or something else to try to make a living. And then there's
and they don't have to. They
right.
They need to figure out, how to get it out the door. That's all. That's the missing link.
And how did they do that then?
Art.
How did they do that?
They listen to you.
That was not a setup, you guys. I mean, really, because I know you do coaching as well for creative people who are at that point in their career. Like you said, they wake up one day and they're like, what does this all mean? Like, what did I sell myself for?
Yeah.
So what kind of advice do you generally give those people?
And the thing is, like, we get people who come here, who come and work with us, or they come through coaching, and they work at State Farm Insurance,
right?
But they really wanted to be creative, and I'm like, okay, well, listen, you're in a town where the whole town works for that insurance company,
right?
It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to make that kind of work. So what we need to figure out is happy. That's much more important. That's much more important than the money. How can that work that you want to do or the work that you're doing make you happy? That's, because the creative satisfaction and finding happiness out of it is the first step. Because if your work doesn't make you happy, then you're not going to be able to sell it. If you're working out of fear, then you're not going to be able to sell it. And then, if when I was 26, 28 and the internet was around, that would be awesome.
Right.
Because I would have figured out, it just makes everything, it brings everything closer, it makes it more accessible. But
she's doing great, by the way.
What's that?
She's doing great.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I think it's learning how to sell your work and learning how to position it and learning how to get it out into the world. Because I've got so many people who come to me and they're like, "Hey, James, would you want to take a look at my portfolio?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Here's my stock answer, Chris." I say, "Well, no, because I'm a terrible judge. Like if I was king of the world, there'd be no UGG boots. There'd be no Apple Watch because I think they're dumb ideas, right? Like, I'm a terrible judge. I'm a terrible judge of my own work. You're a terrible judge of your own work because we have all this self critic inside of us who's terrible and cruel and harsh, right?
Yeah.
But what's not important is what James thinks of your work. What is important is how your work makes you feel. What is important is that you keep making it, and what is important is how you get it out the door.
Okay. So
those are the things that people have to focus on, and those are the tools that they need to learn.
Okay, so if I'm working at a job, I'm not saying at an insurance company or anything, but whatever job, and I'm not happy, do I quit the job? How do I find that where I can be happy making things that give me purpose and meaning and yet still pay rent and buy food?
Have you ever heard of the series of books called, what is it? Who's the character? I think his name was Harry Potter.
No, I have not heard of this story.
Okay, yeah. So the author, his name was J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
And super smart gal. And she was asked in an interview, they said, "Miss Rowling, like when you wrote the first Harry Potter," she said, they said, you were a single mom.
Right.
With no job. They said, how did you do that? And she said, oh, we lived in squalor for 4 years. And to me, that says, how much do you fucking want it? How much do you fucking want it? That's all it is, man. You're going to work. Most people, here's the thing, Chris, you could have an okay job. I just did a talk this morning, Creative Mornings, Texas, and it was all about purpose. And you used that word, and that's an excellent word. It was all about purpose. And the problem with most people who were bringing in questions was that they had a job that they didn't like, but it paid everything. And that comfort destroys your purpose. So they'll never make a change because they're comfortable. The best thing that could happen. Oh, she's seeing the delay. That is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
That is beautiful. I have people who come and they start coaching with me and they're like, James, I lost my job. And I'm like, fabulous. The universe is creating a path for you. This is excellent. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's define your purpose. Let's not play it safe. Let's not live in comfort land, because comfort will destroy you. Comfort will kill your creativity because you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have fire under your ass. So, I understand completely the kind of like, you're like holding on to the side of the boat while you're scuba diving is what you're saying.
Right.
We don't do that.
Yeah. You haven't seen my son scuba dive, so he does do that.
You haven't seen me scuba dive. I'm a complete pussy when it comes to that stuff.
It's a metaphor, everybody. You understand. If you want one thing or the other, but you can't have both. You can't have safety and you can't go exploring.
You can't see the world by standing on the shore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Okay, let's get to point number 2 here. Point number 2, slide number 2 says,
Only 2? God, this is going to take all day.
It could. We don't have to get through all of them, but don't decorate crap. No one cares what your type looks like if your words are not worth reading.
Damn.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Poetry. People are interested in poetry. People aren't, the reason I made that is it was a period of like a renaissance in typography where, all this new software was coming into play where you could do a sketch, and you could scan it in, and then you can start working on these vectors and make all this perfect. And what that software has done is made all typography look alike.
Mm.
It all looks alike. I see it on Instagram. It all looks alike. Doesn't matter if it's on a fucking chalkboard or if it's a book cover or what. It all looks alike. So I'm much more concerned about what the words say than what they look like. And that's why my words are kind of clumsy. That's why I don't really care about beautiful or ugly. I would rather, and also, you showed that the first book, Who Died and Made You Boss, and had some inkling of the next book. There's a lot in this book that is, quite frankly, it takes work to read.
Yes.
But I understand, like the title itself. It's a terrible title. Can't say it and can't spell it. Right? But I believe that my audience are beautiful, intelligent people who will do that work, and then they will be rewarded.
Well, I love the title, and you've used that phrase on a couple of different designs before. I like it because just a scrambling of the words it challenges you to kind of figure out the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you're able to say it, and it's funky to say because your mouth wants to say something else, which also makes you more aware of the words that you're saying. And also, you get by the sensors, right? It's like, it's perfect.
I should have recorded that, Chris. That was beautiful. Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
I know what you meant. Okay, so here's number 3. I love this one. Number 3, there are no ugly typefaces. There are only ugly designers. Youch! What does that really mean? What are you trying to say? Stop
and
beating
by
around the
ugly
bush.
Designers, I mean closed-minded. I mean designers who are like, "Ooh, I would never use that typeface." It's like when I was a kid. I remember, when I was in my 20s. I remember you go out to dinner with designers.
Yeah.
And they start picking on the menu. Like, really?
Yes, that happens all the time. Yes.
Oh, would you believe they use this typeface on the menu? Oh my God! I'm like, shut up. Right? Like, who
Yes.
cares? Who cares? Do you want the chicken or do you want the fish? Shut up. And I believe there are no ugly typefaces. There are just typefaces and fonts that haven't been used well yet.
Yes.
No one's figured them out.
Well, I challenged some of my young designers at the office before. I said, you know what? Let's pick the ugliest typeface. They're like, oh, it's easily this typeface. And it's going to be one of two typefaces. It's going to be either Comic Sans or Papyrus. And they're going to say, I hate it with every part of my body. I'm like, great. For the next couple of weeks, I want you to make a poster that doesn't offend me. Make something good out of that. And they fight against it. They're like, there's no way that this can be good. And surprise, surprise, by the end of it, they actually do make something good. You have to learn how to use that typeface.
Correct, man. Awesome. Excellent job, Chris. Yes, exactly. You just become more and more familiar with the tool.
Yes.
Super.
Yes. Okay. Number four.
Dude, I am falling more in love with you on this first date.
It's just a first date. We're still getting to know each other.
I know, but I throw myself like that.
He's head over heels right now.
You're all heart. You're just a passionate person. Okay. Number 4, there is no right font. You are a magician. Make your own.
Yeah. For me, it's either my left hand or Helvetica. I'm not a very creative guy, I got to admit.
But it's actually a very nice juxtaposition between Helvetica and your handwriting.
Tis indeed.
So I have a question for you. As I try to be a better communicator, and I'm trying to write a little bit too, I'm wondering what your writing process is like. Like, is there something that precedes the moment when you write, something like, there are no ugly typefaces, just ugly designers? Did something piss you off that day, or were you inspired by something beautiful that somebody would not consider beautiful, and then you go and write this?
Yeah, I think both of those.
Yes.
It's me responding to the world. I know that there are two ways that I work. One is by responding to the world and just having this kind of like, oh my God, I got to talk about this, or me be sitting in the studio and just playing and coming up with stuff and looking around and putting words together and seeing what happens. Both those are totally applicable. The responding stuff is easier because it happens real quick,
right?
But they both involve a good amount of me allowing myself to play.
And do you keep a notebook where you keep these ideas that you collect and write down, and then you make the art? Or if you have the idea, you just go and paint it right away?
If I have the idea, I write it in the notebook, and then it's a done deal.
I see. And I want to ask one last little process question here, which is I look at something like this, and I've admired your style, your handwriting, and just the way you do things. But so the question here is, do you premeditate this design, or it just flows through your hand, through your mind, and this is the way it comes out?
I would like it to look like it just was born there.
Yeah.
But it often takes a little bit more work than that.
I see. So are you going through several iterations of it, and you're like, okay, I like this better, and that was not good?
What I try to do, and I learned this from one of my heroes and one of my teachers and one of my friends. And it was an old French designer named Pierre Bernard, and he had a studio called Grapus, and they did a lot of hand lettering in their stuff. And I was talking with him once, and I said, do you write this word like 17 times and then cut them up with scissors and put them back together? And he said, no, we write it maybe 2 or 3 times, but we always choose the first.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, that's awesome. And that's what this is about. Because what I learned in my career is I spend so much time, again, judging my work, looking at it and going, well, this should be a little longer, or maybe that could. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just be done and be happy.
Yeah.
And let that life live in it. So I rarely go back and fix anything, or when things get scanned in, they don't even get cleaned up. If there's like a little extra doodle on the page, like, looks awesome to me,
right?
Because that's life. And I'm just trying to be as authentic and, quite frankly, if you want to get deep, as vulnerable as possible.
That was deep. Now, I'm just curious, when you're that little OCD bug, and designers have heavy doses of this, and I don't mean in clinically ways. Every time I say OCD, people who suffer through this, like, don't use that word like that, but where they do care about the kerning and the perfectionism of their thing, is that voice like Steve Urkel in your mind? Like, oh, it would be better if it was like this. Then you're like, shut up.
Sure, it exists. It exists. I'm a closet neat freak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you just...
Yeah, I'm a neat freak.
Do you just kind of punch that voice and you're like, no, we're moving forward. Let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gotten really good at that. I've gotten really good at that in my writing, and I've gotten really good at that in my work. Where if I'm actually working, and I don't work as a commercial designer as much anymore. I just don't have. I've got a couple of regular clients that I enjoy working with, and I invite, $100,000 jobs, but I just want the freedom to play, and I just want to not have to concern myself with that stuff, because I just know that I'm not good at it, and I've learned over the years that really, and that's a beautiful thing. It's not me, like effect perfection is not a call for ugly or sloppy work.
Right.
It's a call for your best work. But your best work comes from here. It comes from your humanity. It comes from you allowing that voice and that truth to come through. You want to come sit? How do you like them apples?
Okay.
You guys are like, wait a minute. Like, we got to trip this guy up somehow.
I'll be reading the comments in a little bit and kind of responding to what they're saying, but I just need to give them a deep enough introduction or dose of James before we look at that. So here's another one. Here's rule number 5. I think we can get through this. Rule number 5, sometimes the wrongest type choice is the best type choice. Yeah.
I learned that a bunch of years ago working on one particular job. There's another child. One particular job where I had been working as a book jacket designer when I first left art school. I was working as a book jacket designer for a publishing company, and it was all these like a book about the Second World War. So you'd have to have like a stencil type, and you'd rough it up. You're like going for those cliches. And then I learned, oh, wait a second. If I use that roughed up stencil type and I put it on the young adult love novel, it's much more interesting. Or if I use the Hallmark cursive typography for this book about death and dying in the Second World War, wait a minute. So this idea of like, we're always searching for the right typeface, but there is none really. And sometimes the wrongest. And for me as a teacher, and especially if you were talking about visuals and cliches and ideas, the wrongest idea is always the best idea.
I like the way you explain that, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
and Chris, for your audience, here's how you get to the wrongest idea, and it's a blast. So Chris, you and I will be hanging out. We're having dinner.
Yes.
And we're talking about, which is our next date, by the way. And we're hanging out and we're talking about work. And I said, hey, Chris, what are you working on? And you say, oh, I got this thing and this podcast idea, and we got to do this and this. Hi, buddy.
Come on in.
Oh, good. Is it good? Yeah. I got it just for you. And you know what? We're making all different kinds of juice. Oh, I love it. I'll be out in a minute. Okay. Let me talk to Chris. Let me talk to Chris. Okay, show me all the flavors. So we would get to a point in this conversation.
Yes.
And we might have a drink or so, and you'd go, hey, I was working on this thing, and I go, it'd be really funny. And then whatever comes out of that, dude, that's what we do. That's what we do. Right? Because that's the wrongest idea, because that comes from the back of your head. It comes from, and it's going to do that same thing for the audience. They're going to go, that's awesome. Wait, huh? Mm-hmm. Because what designers do is we're so logical and we're trying to make sense that we all come up with the same answer, and it's less interesting.
Yes.
So the wrongest answer is often the best answer. And I've expanded that out from, just the boring idea of typefaces.
Well, it's very interesting to me. It's almost, see, I admire people like you because I grew up in a very kind of rigid environment, with stern Asian parents, that kind of thing. So busting out like that, I always looked at it like, that's such an American idea to just to cause havoc. And I feel like just in you expressing a story over dinner, that there's this practical joker in you, this prankster who's like, you know what? We would really mess up the society for like right design if we just did this. And let's just do it. You troublemaker.
But it's funny.
Yes.
Because your attitude is coming through with that answer. It's not about havoc. It's not about destruction. It's about me playing and me allowing myself to play. There's a squirrel outside.
This just in.
Does the squirrel want to sit on James's lap?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Bring the squirrel in. Okay.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, so here's number 6. Number 6, avoid any tricks available from a pull-down menu.
Yeah, that's just a given now, right? Isn't that just a given? And any of that stuff, because it's and I think I don't even want to go there. It sounds so pedestrian if I go there. So let's just move to the next one. It seems kind of obvious.
I would love to move to the next one, but my computer's automatically installing software right now as we're talking about don't rely on technology. It just took over.
You obviously need an update. You're in dire need of an update, Chris.
And you know what happened earlier? It asked like, hey, we need to install this. I'm like, try in an hour. Just leave me alone right now.
Oh, shit.
I didn't know it literally would do it in an hour.
No, you gotta say tomorrow. It's always tomorrow.
That's what I say every day, but for today. All right, so now I'm without my computer. Okay, Jonah, can you help me out and read some of the questions in the comments? I know there are a lot of people who've read your book who love it, and they said that right before my computer took over and did its own thing. So, Jonah, do you have the comments up at all?
Yeah, give me a second.
All right. Jonah's also editing the show, so now I'm asking him to do something else.
Hey, this is a blast, Chris. I really appreciate talking to you.
So what else can we talk about while we're waiting for technology to comply with us?
I think we can talk about productivity and how you and I are able to stay on the game and stay valid, to stay on target, to make work that is interesting to us.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting idea, because I think a lot of people kind of, so here's how I would phrase it.
Okay.
Chris, I get a lot of people who come to me and they have a burnout question.
Yes.
And I say, listen, I don't believe in creative block or burnout, but I do believe in boredom. And what I think you're doing is and the way I describe it is like you're a Roomba, like the vacuum robot. You're a Roomba stuck in a closet. You're just going bam, 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 bouncing off the walls. What you have to do is you need to back out and open up and breathe and see all of the things that are available to you as a designer, all of the other options that are available. Because you're bored. You're just stuck working in this one mode for such a long time.
And so who put you in the closet? Is this a self-imposed prison?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's don't kick the table. Everything's gonna fall over. Yeah, it's totally self-imposed prison.
So
it's the critic.
Yes.
It's this is for the money. This is for money. It's man, I wish I could do good work, but my boss won't let me.
What do we call that?
We call it fear. I call it. There's a story in here I call Tombstone, and it's literally it was in a Q&A after a talk, and I had the one kid in the back. He raised his hand. And he said, Mr. Victore, I hear what you're saying about doing personal work and getting ideas out and the DIY and blah blah blah.
Yes.
He says, but I got rent to pay. And I said, I'm curious, what's your name? He said, my name is Thomas. I said, okay, Thomas, here's your tombstone.
I know
Here
where
lies-
this is going, so go ahead, finish it.
Here lies Thomas. He would have done great work, but he had rent to pay. Here lies Thomas. He would have done great work, but his boss wouldn't let him. Again, it comes back to like, do you want this shit or not? What are you gonna do? How much do you want it?
Okay.
And Chris, you know, when it comes down to it, most people really don't want it.
Yes.
They don't want to do the work.
Okay, I think similar thoughts here. I didn't know there was such a dark human being like myself that existed across the country here. You've taught for 20 years, over 20 years. So you've met a lot of people who are pretending because they thought this was going to be fun and glamorous and easy and
and creative.
Yeah.
And financially rewarding.
Right.
And it can be. But you have to use those parts of you. You have to employ those parts. Okay, I'll see you. I'll be here.
For at least another 30 minutes, he'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yes.
Yes, but and I used to talk to my students and say, listen, when you go into the bookstore, there's this huge section of financial books.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel when you walk by those? And they're like, oh, nah, I don't want to. I'm like, you're wrong. Go there. There's information for you that you're not learning here. Go there. Learn what to do when you get $1.
Mm-hmm.
So you can grow it into $1 million. And I had this list that I used to give them, and we'd have one class where I would talk about money. And I would say, listen, follow this list, do everything on here. And when time you're my age, which, then it was like, it was 40, 42 or whatever. I said, you'll be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And then I would say, and I got news for you. None of you will be a millionaire.
Why do you toy with them like that, James?
Because none of you will do the work. None of you will.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, this is going to touch on something here that I feel deeply passionate about, that especially right now in this time that we're living in this information age, the creative age, that there's no shortage of information. And so everybody tells themselves this story that if I only had X, Y, and Z, if I only had a faster internet connection, a faster computer, or more information, I would be exactly where I want to be. And there's no shortage of information. What you need more of is more of doing, not more of consuming information.
More action.
More action. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. In Fact Perfection, there's a chapter called it's called Action. Because action beats worry, action beats too much thinking, action beats all these things.
Yes.
And what we'd rather do is kind of sit and fret and go, right.
So your story is like, here's the plan on how to make $1 million. But the problem is none of you will do it.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay.
Sit with me. Sit with me and watch.
And so what happens when you tell them this?
I wish some of them would go, oh yeah, watch me. And then have marvelous fucking careers. And I've watched people, I've helped people make money. I know that the things that I teach and the things that I coach people helps train them to build better careers, to become more in command of their work.
Yes.
And to quit crappy jobs and fire crappy clients in order to make way for, the big fish.
Yes.
So I know the stuff works.
Jonah, have you had enough time to read the comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the questions,
Yes.
riffing off perfection, is how can we practice punching our perfectionist voice in the face?
Good question.
Good question. But listen, attitude, man, dude, dial it back. You know what I mean? Like, really, you want to punch
James,
it in the
you're
face?
sending mixed signals to me right now. You know that, right?
What do you mean?
From a book called, I'm afraid to say it, Fact Perfection. Just right at the beginning, there's attitude all over the place, and this condom thing.
Sure, but it's kind
Two
of
flies
gentle.
screwing. I mean,
no punching in the face.
No punching in the face. Okay, so how do you talk to this voice then?
The idea now, because I've learned so much since even writing Fact Perfection, the idea is to be kind and gentle. The idea is to understand these things in us.
Yes.
And to not fight them. and to know that these are parts of us and we need to learn to love them. The perfectionism thing is to kind of completely to learn to understand that all the noodly details that you're concerned about are only your concern. Nobody else gives a shit. Right? Nobody really cares about that stuff. It's like here's an example. Like I get people who are like, well, I'm worried about what other people will think about X, Y, blah. And I'm like, nobody's really thinking about it except you. So let go. So let go. And the way you let go of anything, Chris, is by letting it in. By understanding that it's a part of you and being gentle to it and being able to pull it into your conscious part of your brain and see it for what it is and go, oh, okay, I see why you're here. And perfectionism, here it is. Perfection is interesting in that it generally stops you more than it helps you.
Right.
It stops you from starting projects because you're not ready. It stops you from starting relationships, like, oh, if I lose 10 more pounds or if I pay off my college debt, then, right. It's and it stops you from finishing anything because it's not ready. I'd see students, they'd come out of school, 4 or 5 years out of school, and they'd come see me in the studio, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I'm working on my portfolio. I'm like, go, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Just go. But they had this perfectionism thing that stops them from, or the other perfectionism thing is like the people who have by their bedstand have a million self-help books. They've read all of them. They've read the Brene Brown and they've read all this stuff, and they're like, and they're still in the same situation. Because what they're doing is they're using that, procrastination and perfection together to not do anything, to not act,
Right.
to not move forward.
Right. Okay. That was, I thought you were going to have a much more punk rock answer, but it's like, this is kind of like a little more spiritual, what you're saying.
That's the new me, baby. That's the new me, baby.
Okay. So
I'm the punk rock guru, I guess.
yes, you are. So the first book is Who Died and Made You Boss?
Yeah.
The second book is Feck Perfection. What is the third book? Love Yourself?
It's actually called Hey Weirdo.
Okay.
But the core of You're So Smart. The core of it is it's all about self-love, because that's where creativity comes from.
Yeah. Is that good for your son's eye?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
He's staring into a blue laser. It's like, don't do it. You need that eye, son. You need it.
Did that hurt you? No.
Okay.
He's all right.
Okay, John, give me another question. Give James a hard one.
A hard one.
Yeah.
They're all hard.
Give him the curveball.
Curveball. How do you know which traditional design rules not to follow?
The only rules to follow are yours, baby. The only rules to follow are yours. You make the rules. You make the rules. Why not? Fuck the traditional rules. Stop reading that shit. Stop reading these goddamn design books. They're useless.
So it's going to school?
Follow this. Follow your heart. You were born with the answers. All the answers are right inside here. He's got everything. He just has to be able to, as an adult, look inside of himself and say, what do I think? Or what do I want? And that's the answer. So, people, especially design, always looking around for the rules. Always looking around for the rules. But that leads you into a place where you don't have any of your own rules. You don't have any boundaries because you're always looking for the outside thing. There's nothing outside that you need. There's nothing outside that you need. You have it all inside of you. So, what traditional design rules, follow your own, make your own. We create our own reality.
So are we wasting our time going to design school? Are they producing
I think so.
Zombie sheep?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Chris, you want to start a school together?
Yes. I'm working on it.
Oh no, dude, I'm shit serious.
Yeah.
No, yes, because most of the stuff you can learn on your own. Most of the stuff you can learn off the computer. Most of the stuff you can learn off of YouTube. The way design is taught right now is by it's 40-year-old ideas.
Yes.
Really? It's 40-year-old ideas and it's taught into a kind of through a homogenized system.
Mm-hmm.
Where the creativity level is super low, where I don't know if the design industry or design education system attracts low self-esteem or creates low self-esteem.
Oh, interesting. Oh, this is a chicken and egg situation here. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it attract low self-esteem or does it create it? What do you think the answer to that is?
Whatever the answer is, the critical part is low self-esteem, and we have to beat, and we have to get rid of that.
Right.
We have to install a sense of purpose. We have to install a sense of self-love and self-focus.
Mm.
You want to tell me something? I would. You're gonna go get some fizzy water? Okay. Thank you, but not a lot, just a little. I want you to have most of it.
Okay. The computer's back and the fan's whirling. It's like, oh, you're making me work so hard. Okay, so I think you already said the answer to this, but I'm going to bring up the slide so that we can keep on point here. Point number 7 is that technology is not the answer. You are the answer. It's inside of you. You've already said it, and I think we can now move on to point number 8, which is avoid trends, create your own style, and stop following the herd.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think we talked about this in a couple of different ways. If you're following the herd, the view never changes, right?
It's true.
Just a bunch of assholes. And every leader in any industry at one point was laughed at.
Right.
At one point had no audience, had no, it came up today in the creative morning things. This gal said, "Hey, I've got this new purpose and I've been working on it for years." She said, she's like, "I don't have the audience for it now. And I don't know, my friends don't believe in it." And I'm like, you sound like you sound like a bunch of those crazy people who started working in their garage, making computers.
It'll never work.
Nah. What was it? What was the question?
There was no question. It was just a quote. But okay, this is now number 9. So go ahead.
The birth. There it is. Number 9. The birth of perfection. I love it.
So it began here as a rule, and then it became a whole book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a few more words than 2.
Okay, so here's rule 10. We've already talked about this. Following the rules makes your work look like everyone else's.
Totally. And this is across the board, isn't it? This is fashion. This is food. This is everything.
Yes.
In this book, in the new book, in Feck, there's this thing about and I'd love your take on this. There's this thing about the in every job, in every act of creation, there's the objective and the subjective. And the objective is to satisfy the client, to fulfill the request or the proposal, right? To make for example, a chef needs to make food that is good and hot. Then there's the subjective part, and the subjective is the stuff we're never given, the stuff is we're never asked for. The subjective is how you fulfill the objective through a sense of humor, a sense of sexuality, a sense of the macabre, right? So a chef could not only give you food that is hot and good, they can create an entire experience. They can create a memory. They could. Oh, it's just water? That's a. Oh, it's wine. Thank you. Must be 5 o'clock over here. The Victore house, baby. It's a fun place. The children bring you wine. Thank you, darling. Do you want to say hi to Laura? Chris, you got to talk to Laura someday.
Okay, sure.
Please.
It's like the whole family is here.
bring the whole family together. Hi, Laura. How are you? We're just doing a little live stream
Chris,
here.
you got to talk to Laura someday.
Good to see you.
She's amazing.
Yes, you are.
I'll send you an email about what.
James, can I say this? I've done countless live streams. My wife has never brought me wine before. I just want to say that, honey. Take a note from the Victore household here.
Cheers.
I have something too. Cheers. It's just water.
Oh, that's what he told me. Yeah.
Okay. I love this. This is live, guys. This is work from home. This is like being in the moment and living in it and just going with the flow.
It's perfection, baby.
It's actually all premeditated. We scripted this before the show started, guys.
Are you guys having a good time?
Having a
I
good
am.
time.
Good.
About to get with some wine myself.
Jonah, don't go anywhere. We still need you for this.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Shoot. Where's my computer again? Here we go. My cursor has disappeared. Okay, whatever.
Did we hit number 10 already?
Yeah, well, we did. Following the rules makes your work look like everyone else's. Now, I have to ask you this question.
Yes.
You've inspired me, and I want to start drawing with hand lettering now. I want to start expressing myself, but then does that make me like just following you then?
No. Inspiration is great. But inspiration without action is bullshit. So no, that's great. But my request is that you have something to say before you start making a mark on the page.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we have a good question that riffs off that. What is the best way to find my voice?
I love that question. I get that all the time. I love that question. Okay. Whoever sent that in, whatever 17 people sent that in, it's not hiding. So stop using that vocabulary of you got to find it. It's not hiding. And it's not out there someplace. You got to read that book and do that thing and take this Skillshare class. And it's none of that. It's harder than that. And it's harder than that because you need to allow it. You need to allow it. You have an opinion. You have something to say, and it's because of and in spite of your parents. It's all of your background. It's your history. It's the places you've traveled. It's the things that made you weird as a kid that make you great today. But it's allowing that. And by saying that, it sounds easy, but what that means is now I need to be vulnerable. Now I need to be authentic. And dare I say something that somebody may not like? Because we live in fear of that. But that's the process.
So good. Now, I'm thumbing through your book, and I have to show
Dude,
our audience.
I am so good.
You are. You are,
good
sir.
at my job, baby.
You know what? You answer questions in ways I'm like, where's he going with this? Oh, that's where he's going with this. It's kind of unexpected, just like the title of your book. It really is. So there's this image I have to show you here, guys. If you find your voice, if you work on your craft, and you're brave enough to put it out there, it may even lead you to this, which I didn't even realize that you had done this cover for Esquire because I've had this issue. You get to paint on a supermodel. Tell me about this experience.
That was a funny experience. Yeah, Bar Raphael. So I had the great opportunity to practice on lingerie models, which was fun. And Esquire said, "Hey, do you want to practice?" I'm like, yeah. And my friends were all after it. Well, I'll go after it, then I'll go before. After it, my friends were all like, "So what was that like? What was that like?" And I was like, "It was like work. I had to concentrate. I really couldn't fuck up too much, you know." And I wanted it to. There's a schmear on there. I wanted it to feel real and sexy. And I had to one up James Bond credits, right? Mm-hmm. But she shows up and fresh off the plane from Israel, looking amazing. And I came across the room and I said, "Mr. Raphael, I'm James Victore. I'll be painting you today." And she says, "This better come off or I will sue you."
Seriously?
Yep.
Oh, it has to come off. I mean, like I have to be able to wash this off my body. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
I see.
And I said, well, you can have my pickup truck because that's all I have. I'm like, bitch, really? Really? Damn. God. A little kindness, a little, professional respect. Nah. So anyway, I was using way high end cosmetics, like super expensive stuff. MAC. It was all MAC stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was fascinating. It was fast because I had sketches, I had practice, I had kind of an idea, but when you go and do it, it's live. It's like you got to get in there and just like, and it was a great experience. I want more of that, and I don't mean like in that kind of tawdry sexual kind of way. It's just like I can do it. I can do this stuff. Whatever you give me, baby. I'm there. I'm ready to like paint on a cow. I don't care. I love my job. I love typography. I love putting ideas into different contexts, and therefore changing the meaning. I'm really good at my job as a creator, and the reason I'm really good is because I allow myself that freedom. I allow myself to have that voice. I put myself into a position where all I have is my vulnerability, and all I have is my authenticity.
Mm.
And therefore that's how you attract clients, and that's how you create a reputation, and that's how you find relationships and an audience. So that goes back to even our very, very, very first conversation, a very, very first question about I've got a crappy job, now what? And that's how you do it.
Awesome. Okay, so we're kind of ending or coming up on our first hour here, and I do need to get ready for something else. But maybe this phrase sums up what we've been talking about and your next book. And here it is, Jonah. The things that make you weird as a kid make you great today.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And that's the idea. That's one of the central core of Effect Perfection. And that's where the new book came from, is that idea, that one idea. And that thing that you were born with is your superpower.
Yes, I agree.
It is your, if you can, I was talking this morning for an hour about finding your purpose. Your purpose, you were born with it. And your purpose was your ability to play, your ability to sing and dance and make jokes and have fun and possibly find joy in life. And take your dreams and turn them into your future, which is a great way to finish off this, talking on the future.
Yes.
But yes, the things that made you weird as a kid make you great today if you pay attention to them. And if you put them in your work.
It's taken me a long time, James, to embrace the weirdo in me, and now I'm fully weird. How long did it take you to find your weirdo?
Took me a long time, baby. Took me a long time. And I'm still I'm at this point in my career where I'm still finding out my weird, and I'm still trying to get rid of some of the patterns and habits.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of work. I work with a shaman. I've become very kind of spiritualistic. I become very meditative, and I have a breathing practice, and I'm doing all this work to unearth more of my weirdness, to get back to that 5-year-old, 7-year-old Jimmy, right? I've got this client that I'm trying to deal with, and he's like, he wants me to come and teach 250 of his people in the entertainment industry how to be creative, right? And he's like, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And he's like riding me, and I said, okay, here it is. His name is Bob. And I said, oh, Bob, it goes like this. If I said to the 7-year-old Bob, I say, hey, Bob, we're going to write a book today. 7-year-old Bob would say, oh, and can I make the pictures? I'm like, yeah, Bob, you can make the pictures. Not only that, you can do the cover. And then we'll staple it together and we'll give it to our friends. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. But now if I say to the 40-year-old Bob, hey, Bob, we're going to write a book today, you would say, I can't write. I don't know how to draw. Where are we going to get the tools? One of them, blah, blah, blah. All these limitations that we've just gathered over the fucking years, or that were given to us by parents or by society or by clients or by concerned that. The things that made you weird as a kid, you had all these powers. You had superpowers then, and you just got to get back to them, man. Just got to get back to them.
Special request for you, James. Can you just flip us off and just hold that pose for the thumbnail for a little bit? There we go. That's perfect. Jonah, we're going to capture that. Okay, we got that.
That's it right there.
And that pretty much sums up the entire episode. Funny things with computers happening, children and spouses walking into the thing. It's been a wonderful, weird ride. James, how do people get in touch with you? I know you do creative coaching, that you do motivational speaking, you do workshops and all kinds of interesting things. And if you're a client that wants to drop a six-figure project on James for drawing on supermodels, he's your man for sure. How do they get in touch with you, James?
The everything is through jamesvictore.com.
Okay. There
And
it is.
and the Instagram is where I play. It's at James Victore.
Beautiful. James, thank you very much for being a part of this live stream. I hope that this is most definitely our first date, and there's more dates.
Oh, baby!
You promised dinner.
I'm a fan, and I totally want to get to know you better.
Thank you very much, James. Thanks for helping us with our bucket list for this year. We're starting off really strong with you, so thank you very much.
Groovy.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. That's it for us for today. And I will be on a different live stream on a different channel. But you know what it is. Have a great weekend, you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. You are part of our teaching 1 billion lives, making a difference, 1 billion mission. Thank you, donation. See you guys next time. That's it for me. Peace.